Hey, thank you so much for listening to gwot.rocks, God, the World, and Other Things. I'm Kenny Price, your host. Our mission, advancing the peace of Christ in the midst of an agitated world. This is Season 21, Episode 450. Title, The Shroud. Subtitle, Problem Solved, Problem Created. I have a white 1995 Jeep Cherokee two-wheel drive, four-door hatchback SUV. It was an SUV before they called it an SUV. The German automotive magazine Auto, Motor, and Sport rated the classic Jeep Cherokee as one of the top 10 best designed cars of all time. And my friend, I can testify to that. This recognition highlights the timeless design and enduring appeal of the Jeep Cherokee. It was built truck-like with a modified undercarriage that was sort of half frame, like a pickup truck, and half unibody. The back hatch was innovative, being made out of one piece of molded fiberglass instead of metal or plastic. The back hatch lifted up and out of the way, pushed upward by hydraulic shocks. Once out of the way, you have easy access to a flat loading deck. The area behind the back seat of this small SUV is large enough to carry a household dishwasher, because I did that recently, with the hatch closed. The back seat folds down flat so that you can expand the cargo area, carrying space to a cavernous size. Back when my oldest son started drumming, he could fold the back seat down and carry an entire drum kit with a bass drum, snare drum, 2 floor toms, cymbal case, kick pedal case, and all the stands. Under the hood, it came standard with a well-made beast of an engine. The motor is a straight-line 6-cylinder, 4-liter engine, cast iron block. It has a lot of low-end torque for easy pulling power. It is the best engine Jeep has ever built, and my Jeep currently has over 320,000 miles on it, and it still runs like a Singer sewing machine. It's amazing. There's only one slight problem. The large engine fills up the engine compartment, and it gets hot in the compressed space. The electronic fuel injection fuel rail, which feeds gas to the 6 cylinders, is sandwiched between the hood and the exhaust manifold on the right side of the engine. I recently bought a thermal reader. It's infrared, and the exhaust manifold registers at 500 degrees when it's running. For the off-road enthusiasts who love these in the 4x4 version, they have problems with it overheating when they are out mountain climbing or off-roading, because they are putting the engine and transmission under a lot of torque, especially if you're going deep into the mud. I have battled an excessive engine heat problem for years. There's no problem with the engine itself, no cracked block that could cause coolant to escape, nothing. So I've been working on it once again. I got rid of my pickup truck and decided to start driving this Jeep as my second car. It has been an extra third car for years and years. After much research, I came to the thought, maybe the radiator fins are dirty, clogged from years of use, and the air is not flowing well through the cooling fins. So, one day I used my air compressor to give the radiator a good cleaning. I was going to take it to the car wash and use the jet sprayer, but found out the high pressure may actually damage the radiator. As I was getting ready to put the shroud on that surrounds the radiator cooling fan, the sunlight hit the shroud in just the way to where I could see it very clearly. I had the Jeep pulled into the backyard up to my tool shed where my air compressor is located. It's in the shade and a comfortable place to work. The Lord impressed my spirit, Kenny, look at the shroud. As the bright sunlight coming through the shade trees hit the shroud, I saw a cut in the shroud, a small intentional saw blade cut. I began to examine the shroud. It appeared to have been modified. The modification was so well done that it almost looked like it was made in that exact shape and form, except for that little cut, that little gash made by a saw blade. Then I looked closer, and I saw another imperfection made by the scuffing of a saw blade. Then I remembered. I had modified that shroud. The shroud is a single piece of tough molded plastic. It's tough like a heavy-duty roll-around plastic trash can. The problem is, though a simple piece of plastic, it's hard to put on because of the metal fan blade that is attached to a pulley that is powered by the engine unibelt. I vaguely remember that we had worked on the engine that required the removal of the fan, which involved the shroud removal. I put the fan back on that night and realized I had left the shroud off. The shroud should have been placed over the fan first, then installed with the fan. It is impossible to place the shroud over the fan once the fan is installed. And my friend, putting on that simple mechanical clutch fan is extremely difficult. It's in very tight quarters and you have to have tiny hands. Back in the day, it appeared to my unaware eyes that the shroud was a safety shroud to keep you from getting your hand cut off by the moving metal blades. The blades spun right at the top of the radiator. Very dangerous. So rather than go to all the trouble and expense of pulling that system back apart, I cut off the bottom and left-hand side of the shroud. The left-hand side is right next to the battery, so there's not much risk in encountering the blade. The top and right side of the fan is exposed. So I left those two sides intact and slid the shroud, or what was left of the shroud, back into place, covering the exposed fan blades. Problem solved. But problem created. After all these years, I found out that the shroud, as simple as it appears, is an integral part of the cooling system. It is specifically designed to create a suction effect in concert with the fan, pulling the fresh air across the radiator coils and into the hot engine compartment. So it helps cool the engine in two ways. One, by pulling the heat from the water running through the radiator tubes, and the pulling of fresh, cooler air into the engine compartment. I always thought that the cooling fan blew against the radiator, just like your household fan cools you. So when I cut off two of the four sides, I greatly impaired the fan's job to suck the air across the radiator coils. Sitting there on my stool in front of the engine, I pulled out my phone and searched Amazon for a new shroud. There, in clear, multiple photographs that show you the shroud, it shows the complete shroud with a specifically designed lip that surrounds the blade that focuses the air through the back of the radiator where the fan goes. Duh. Not just a safety guard, but an intentionally designed, simple, yet intricate part of the cooling system for the Jeep. Damage done in ignorance without the understanding of future-related adverse consequences. Do you see any elements in this story that might compare to your life and life choices? Sometimes you do things that at the time seem inconsequential, yet over time it becomes apparent that your life decision made years ago had hidden within it damages that have become apparent with time. My friend, the good news is, under the scrutiny of God's loving light of Holy Spirit illumination, you can begin to see clearly what is causing a problem, which leads you to an understanding to the correction of the problem, a solution to your life's engine overheating. There are a bunch of life applications here. I'll let you think about how this story of the shroud applies to you. And with that, my friend, I bid you the peace of Christ.